Sort of into 5 parts: your bumper horses, novice hurdlers, novice chasers, and the big gun chasers as well.
Okay, well done.
Very much with your help. Let's start with bumpers, because obviously I can't even. I've got names on a list I've got here, but I know nothing about your bumper horses. So just tell us, what bumper horse from Rich Ricci can we look forward to and smash into first time? Although it'd probably be 1 to 2 anyway.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. But I think the horse, the clear outstanding bumper horse for us, I think, is Fulham Road. He was a horse that fell in his point-to-point behind a sizing network, which is now with Henry de Bromhead, and has run well. He was going well in that race. He's one that was probably close to the top of the heap of our bumper horses last year. And remember, while our bumper horses didn't run well at Cheltenham, they all won their races. They all won a bumper last year. I think he would be the one we'd be most looking forward to. I know Patrick's quite keen on him. My only concern is he's 5 rising 6. I'll probably be putting, depending on what happens with our novice hurdle team, I might be putting pressure to take him over hurdles. But from a bumper perspective, he's our best by far. I think there's 2 other names there. One is Terrar, who's a half-brother to Tarla. You may remember her. She was a nice mare for us. He's always shown a ton of ability. We just have had a couple of setbacks with him, but he seems to be on track to come back this year. And the other one is Vigoville, who's another one who hasn't run, but also has showed great promise. So those are the ones that I think would be the outstanding ones, but Fulham Road would be the true outstanding one. We don't have as big a team this year as we've had in previous years. We tend to buy where we think there's value. Last year we bought a lot of bumper horses. This year we haven't bought many. But Fulham Road is clearly the one I think I'd keep an eye on, and he would be kind of top of the tree of mine, and hopefully top of the tree, or at least in the top quartile of the bumper horses in Ireland.
Okay, so those are 3 bumper horses to look out for. If you won't have ever heard of some of these horses, I'll just spell their names for you. Obviously, Fulham Road you can get, but Terrar is a horse that's spelled T-A-R-A-R-E if you're writing these down at home, and Vigoville is V-I-G-O-V-I-L-L-E. Those are 3 horses to look out in the world of bumpers. I imagine there will be a few more you can check out as well along the way. Rich, novice hurdlers, fascinating. You would not believe. I'll ask you this question, actually, Rich. One horse the Twitter feed and email has just gone bonkers for amongst your novice hurdlers. What would you think it was?
Min.
It was Min. It was Min. You see, this is why you are successful, Rich. You are not only intelligent, but you're clairvoyant as well. But, I mean, I've only got 2 bits of form for Min, where he didn't do an awful lot at Vautour. I mean, why is he such a talking horse?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think, first of all, that this is our biggest and hopefully our best novice hurdle team we've ever had. And we've been lucky enough to win a few of the novice hurdles at Cheltenham, and I hope we've got at least one of the winners here in this list. I think Min, there's a couple of things. I think Min fits the profile of the type of horse we like, who runs in France, probably doesn't win, finishes 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, is by a trainer we know that and we like, who isn't hard on their horse's first time, and that is looking probably to sell their horse, and we can get some improvement into the horse. I think Min particularly is interesting because he's from the same, he's a walk in the park horse, so same as Douvan, which will attract attention first and foremost. Secondly, he did some great work last year when he came into the yard. He looks fantastic. He's got a good turn of foot. He's an exciting horse. He's yet to win. You know, that's the thing about some of these steamers that happen in punting, because he's quite short for the Supreme. But he's an exciting horse. I think that walk in the park pedigree is something that probably drives it. Also, I think the fact that you know, he did some work well last year. Those things get around throughout the social media, I suppose. And I've been very upfront about saying that he's a horse I'm excited about. So maybe that's driving it as well. But he's certainly one to look forward to, and I can't wait for him to start. Now, that being said, you know, last year I was saying the same thing about Allez Colombière, and you know, unfortunately, he broke down in the first race of the season. So, you know, with all these things, the caveats are things can change, and we'll see when they get to the track. But he's certainly one to look forward to, I think.
And equally, and a little bit of a similar type, American Tom, who has had the one race at Vautour, you know, ran okay, but was beaten 10 and a bit lengths, but again seems to be a horse that people are talking about.
You know, he's another one that it fits the profile of horses we like. I'm hoping that again, yeah, he finished third, I think, in his first run. We bought him. I'm hoping that he might be able to step up a little farther in distance. He looks like a chaser to me, but he's another one just fits our profile. And we buy from certain trainers, and we've had success with that. So that's not lost on punters and students of the game. And I'm just hoping that he does well. He's also half brother to the French Grade 1 winner Kiko, so that probably helps as well. But he's well bred, and I'm hopeful that he's another exciting novice we have this year.
There are more obvious ones. I mean, Long Dog just seems to be getting better and better with every race. You very kindly gifted, of course, David Casey his final winner on the Long Dog, and he, was polished on it. I mean, how good do we think Long Dog is? Because there are some people who think if they're running at this time of year, they can't be that good.
That's a good point. So let me try and clarify that. So he was a horse that we were very excited about. He won his only run on the flat. He beat Thomas Edison, and we bought him. We put him away. We brought him back last year. He ran in his first race. He got beaten in a very close finish, and he hurt himself in the race, or just after the race. We think probably happened in the race. And so wasn't anything too serious, but we had to put him away for a bit. And because we have so many horses, we just decided, look, if the ground stays right, we'll run him in the summer, as long as there's a bit of juice in the ground, and see how we get on. And we're not going to waste any more time with him. He's a horse we really like. Let's go and do it. Now, that's not always the case with our summer horses, because we tend to run summer horses in the summer. But this fella, who likes some cut in the ground, was able to learn a lot this summer. He's been very impressive. He's a horse we like a lot. I think he'll get 2.5, maybe even 3 miles. He's a horse that I think very highly of. I know Ruby likes him a lot. And people shouldn't read that we ran him in the summer for anything other than the fact that we just wanted to get him out. We were frustrated he missed last season. And while there was juice in the ground, we started to run him. We had a wet enough summer. Unfortunately, we had a dry autumn, but he's one that really excites me. I think he could be a Neptune horse or a Bartlett horse.
And of course, by getting him out, you've won over 40 grand with him already. So he's beginning to pay his way, Long Dog. He looks very exciting. Thomas Hobson's interesting because, of course, we know a bit more about him because he came off the flat. I've got to say, when I saw him at Listowel, I just thought this horse cannot jump. And then, he looked terrible. And then he went to Galway, and he wasn't totally brilliant. But what you're learning with this horse is that when everything gets together, he's obviously got a really big engine.
Yeah, he does. Now, I don't want to make the comparison, but he reminds me a bit of Faugheen in the sense that he kicks his hurdle out of the ground, but he doesn't lose a lot of momentum, and he keeps going, and he'll learn with more practice. He's got a huge engine. Now, he's one of those horses. It's funny because we paid quite a bit of money for him for what he had accomplished and what he's done since, and I always remind Willie, I give him a hard time about it. Willie loves a challenge. So I've told him we've got to get our money out of this horse, and he's working very well. I'm hopeful that when the rain comes, he'll go out and demonstrate just how good he can be in a couple of these hurdles. He could also go back to the flat, but I think for the time being, just given what a buzzy runner he is, we'll keep him over hurdles and see what he can do. But I'm hoping he's a graded hurdler.
Yeah, he could even be a Max Dynamite in the future, couldn't he? Just
possibly,
that type of maybe dual purpose. Max is looking better on the flat than he did over hurdles for the time being, at least. But,
absolutely.
But we'll come on to him later. Okay, so that's Thomas Hobson, who his jumping, was it something that Willie was worried about?
That first one was just, he hadn't schooled very well, but he's been schooling a lot since. His jumping's improved. He'll be fun.
Rich, I want to talk to you about a horse called Limini, who we saw at Punchestown.
Well, you've got the accent on the wrong syllable. It's Limini.
You're sounding like one of our on-the-line callers now, Rich. And that was Rich Ricci on line 6, and I'm in charge of this show, so goodbye,
Rich.
Rich.
I beg your pardon.
It's been nice having you on the show, that is it. No, unfortunately, Rich, I'm going to keep you on. So Limini.
Well, she won, I think she won 3 times on the flat in France.
Yeah.
And her hurdle has worked out, her maiden hurdle has worked out incredibly well. The second, Sandy Mount Duke, has won 4 times. The third has won. The fifth has won, and the sixth have all won their next maiden hurdle. So, that was a Punchestown maiden in the middle of May. That couldn't have worked out any better. She's one that's very exciting. It's great that Cheltenham's introduced that novice mare's hurdle. She looks to be a candidate for that. Hopefully she's good enough to go there, but we'll see as the season progresses. But she's very exciting, and I like her a lot. We also have a horse called Carolee, which you're probably going to ask me about next, that also excites me. I couldn't separate the two at the moment because I think they're both incredibly exciting. But, yeah, they're two to look forward to.
Yeah, Carolee, who won, I think it was Killarney, wasn't it?
She was very impressive there, yeah.
Killarney. And, you know, Limini was 5-4 on the Limini, 5-4 on the favourite, and certainly this Carolee was 1-2 first time out in an 18-mile race, suggesting that everyone at Mullins's knew she was something out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I think there's a sense that Carolee could be something special, yeah.
Yeah, and there are some more familiar names in there from the bumpers from last season, like Pile on the Pressure and Bordini. One or two of those sort of didn't quite live up to what we might have hoped, and one or two did. Well, I mean, are you out of those? Out of those two, Rich, which could be the best of those two?
Well, it's a good question. If I look at those bumper horses from last year, I mean, Bordini's had his win done, so that's good news. Vautour wasn't quite himself for whatever reason. He's had a full MOT. We may have done a procedure on him as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, being honest. But we've also got Live, Love, Laugh. You've got Pile on the Pressure. You've got Turkagua, who didn't run at Cheltenham. I think of those bumper horses from last year, Turkagua, I think, sticks out for me. He finished third on his debut to Moon Racer in that sales bumper at Berry House. Yeah. And was very impressive then at Navan. His next time out in a bumper, I think he could be the best of those bumper horses.
And again, if you're watching thinking, crikey, I've never even heard of that horse. Turkagua is spelled Turcagua, French bred, and as Rich said, run against Moon Racer and then absolutely hacked up. Really exciting. Okay, so there's some of the novice hurdlers. If you had to pick one out of that lot, Rich, that you think is just outstanding, which one would you go for?
Crikey. I mean, there's a few we didn't talk about. Who I think.
Well, which ones didn't we talk about that you think might be outstanding?
Well, I think it's just rattling through. I think Babylon Demont was very good last year. She won that listed fillies bumper at Sandown. Beaumont is a horse that we like a lot. That won his only run on the flat. He could be very good. Bravissimo is another one that is a gorgeous looking thing that hasn't won yet. That could be good. I think that we've got a horse called Townsend, who Paul Townend will probably have to ride because, except for the SH, it would be his name. He's one to look forward to, I think, as well. He ran very well in France, and it's something to look forward to. But if I had to pick one, I would probably say Min, and I can't just pick one. I'd say Min, Long Dog, Carolee could be one to keep an eye on. But there's others there as well that could be in the mix. And, you know, as the season progresses, I'll be happy to discuss them with you or others and let people know what our thinking is.
Us first, though, Rich. Let's make that absolutely clear. I mean, they're all horses that this time next year we could be really getting excited about. They're youngsters. In some ways, we're second-guessing, but not so much with the hurdlers. And there's only one place we can really start. I mean, you were saying Thomas Hobson might be the next Faugheen, but
I didn't say that. I said it reminds me of Faugheen.
Reminds me, but there'll never be another Faugheen. I mean, presumably, all roads just lead to the champion. I mean, have you got anything exciting up your sleeve for him other than just do what he did last year?
Well, it's interesting. I think he'll start in the Morgiana in the middle of November. Hopefully, if the rain arrives, that's where he'll start. We'd like to defend our crown in the Christmas hurdle at Kempton. And he's never run between Christmas and Cheltenham. So that'll be interesting to see. There's obviously the Irish champion hurdle to take a crack at, which is probably on his agenda. But I think that's probably the path for him. He looks great. He looks fantastic. I can't say enough about him. He looked really brilliant. And he's summered very well. He looks very fit. He looks muscular. He looks great. He looks stronger than last year. He touch wood, he stays healthy. He looks magnificent.
A horse, Rich, that will now probably be a hurdler for the rest of his life?
Yeah, I think that's right.
And I mean, from the sounds of what you're saying is that there's a feeling in the camp that this is a horse that could still be progressing a bit, that there might still be more to come.
Oh, I hope there's some improvement in him. Certainly his jumping can brush up. I think that he looks stronger to me after this summer, which is good. chasing, he looks like a chaser. We all know that. But he's got a sensitive back. He was hard to keep fit as a younger horse. Hurdling probably the right way for him, and he looks magnificent. And hopefully there's some improvement. But he looks really, really good to me.
And Rich, when you look at the betting for the Champion Hurdle, I mean, isn't it easy to argue that all you're betting on is him getting there? I mean, Peace and Go is second favourite, Arctic Fire is third favourite, and without being rude to the owners of Arctic Fire, I think you'd almost have a heart attack if Arctic Fire ever beat you. Douvan is obviously in there. We'll get on to him and find out what he's up to in a moment. And then you're on to Nichols Canyon. I mean, when you look at it, if he's there on the day, it's impossible to think of defeat, isn't it?
Well, look, Arctic Fire ran a big race last year. Don't know what Peace and Co can do. Very difficult for 5-year-olds to win that race, but Nicky's a terrific trainer. You know, the new one, and Nigel said last year that the horse wasn't right.
You're not afraid of the new one, Rich.
Listen, there'll be lots of arrows thrown at us. You know, we'll see what we can do. I mean, certainly I think he should be the favorite, but we'll have to see what happens in the day. But he looks magnificent, I have to say.
Can we just, because it's very difficult for me, of course, because I don't know what's happening, whether I should be talking about Douvan as a novice chaser or a hurdler. So can we just bring Douvan in at this point?
Sure.
Just because he's as short as 5-1 in a place for the Champion Hurdle, but he's up to sort of 16-1. No, 12-1 in some places, 10's a bit. Is Douvan going to run in the Champion Hurdle, or is he going to be probably in the Arkle?
No, he goes novice chasing.
So Douvan goes novice chasing.
Yes, we talked about him a lot. I was at Willie's Yard for our annual powwow there a couple of weeks ago, and you know it would be great to have 2 darts at the Champion Hurdle. If something happened to Faugheen, God forbid, we could reroute him there, or we could have Annie Powers a backup for Faugheen. But no, we're going to go novice chasing with Douvan.
And how soon, Rich, might we see him? Because this is one of the most exciting horses in training.
Needs some rain. He looks great. You know, he was very thin-framed last year. He summered very well. He looks stronger. He's a big horse. I remember the day we were down at Woody's Yard last year, and Woody told me he was bigger than, or Ruby told me he was bigger than Arvika Legionnaire. I said, no, he's not, and he is.
Yeah.
And he looks fantastic, actually. He's another one that summered very well. He's very exciting. And no, we'll go novice chasing with him.
And can you give us some idea, Rich, because I know these questions sometimes might even come over a bit crass, but just how excited, if he does get excited, Willie, because it's slightly a conveyor belt, but, you know, when he talks to you about Douvan, is there that sort of twinkle in the Mullin's eye that you sometimes get at midnight when he's out at the Bagnall or something? I mean,
that's a different kind of twinkle.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think, you know, you with Willie, it's interesting. You listen for words and how he uses words. And when he says something like last year, Douvan could be, you know, the best we've ever had, or when he says something complimentary about Vautour, you listen to those things, because he doesn't throw those things around very lightly. And he is, you know, it is a conveyor belt. Chigginstown has great horses. The O'Connells have great horses. Graham Wiley has great horses. You know, there's all sorts of talent in the yard. But you listen, when he's not just talking about our horses, but other horses, and you listen for those words. And what he said about Douvan struck a chord with me, and hopefully he can go and prove it now.
OK, well, that's Douvan and Faugheen. We've got those sorted out. Annie Powers is a fascinating horse, Rich, because she is brilliant, and we've all sort of slightly fallen in love with her, but every single email I get about Annie Powers says, please, please, please don't let Rich Ricci say the Mayor's Hurdle is the ultimate aim. And we know it's a Grade 1, and we know the sponsors are putting a lot of money, but I think there's still a feeling that Annie Powers is being given an option that she's better than. Do you get where I'm coming from, Rich?
Yes, and I think that's fair. And I think, well, first of all, she looks magnificent. I mean, of all the horses, I thought she looked sensational. And she is, she's my pet as well. I mean, I love her to bits. You know, I think what we'll do with Annie is, and again, my head probably says, you know, makes sense to just say, let's go for the Mayor's Hurdle. My heart says, God, I'd love to win the World Hurdle with her. And so what I think we'll do is we'll run in the Hatton's Grace. That's where she'll start. And we'll run in something at Christmas, maybe even the Christmas Hurdle. And then I think I'll just stay stum until February and see how it pans out, because I'd like to keep our options open to see how she gets on and either take another crack at the World Hurdle or the Mares race. They're both great ones. They're both great races. But I think I'll keep my optionality, and I won't just say today the default is the Mares Hurdle. And I've had this conversation with Willie. I'd rather keep our options open and see how we get on.
I mean, effectively, it'll be one or t'other, though, if everything goes to plan.
Yes.
Those are the options sort of thing.
That's right.
We wouldn't put her in the champion against Faugheen for obvious reasons, I
No,
guess.
and for punters, I think that's fair enough, because, you're not going to back her at, anti-post for the Mares Hurdle. And, if we make a decision on the World's Hurdle, it'll be fine as well by then. So I think we'll just keep our powder dry with her until and see how she gets on, and keep our powder dry till the middle of February.
How much is the breeding part of this game for you, Rich? I mean, are you someone who's so in love with Annie Power now that you can't wait to see little Annie Powers running around?
It's funny. Everybody I talk to, because I think I'd like to breed, but everybody I talk to tells me it's crazy to breed. It's funny. So I don't know. It's something that Ruby and I and Willie have discussed with some of our mares, and we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I mean, she is certainly. We've had some great mares, and I see what the prodigy of Palm Tipi are making in the sales, and it's wonderful to see that. And it's something that interests me. So maybe not the immediate future, but it could be in the midterm future.
And as far as the hurdlers are concerned, Clondor Court is unbeaten, 4 from 4. But he's an 8-year-old and has only run 5 times in its life. Clearly been a problem horse, but is the engine still sort of burning bright at home?
Now, he's an interesting one. So, Clondor Court, I think what we'll do, because he's won 3 hurdles. What we'll try and do is probably find him a grade 3 or a grade 2 or something that we think he can win, and kind of pay for his fees for the season. And if he comes out of that okay, then we'll go for a big one. I mean, if he was right, if he could stay right, he could be a world hurdle horse.
Right.
World hurdle horse, yes.
Yeah. Well, that would be terrible news for Annie Power. But no, I mean, he just could be anything, couldn't he? We just don't know. I mean, it's hard to believe he's going to fulfil the potential in some ways, but you just don't know, do you?
No, that's right. That's right.
Just to butter you up at this stage, Rich, just in case you're thinking this has gone on a bit, I'm ready for my tea now. Danny Connor on Twitter has just said, I really wish all owners were as open and honest and good to punters as Rich Ricci. And Dave has just said on Twitter, absolutely brilliant hearing from Rich. So,
well, that's very kind of them. That's very kind. I try to be as candid as I can be, because it's important. And we want fans of the game and punters both to appreciate the game, and it's only fair to tell them what we know, I think.
Yeah, and I know when you did the Cheltenham preview night, and I know you drove up to, didn't you drive up to Leeds?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. And then you offered a prize, didn't you, that someone could just, let's do a competition or something in the middle of the preview night, and you offered someone a chance to come into the box or something at Cheltenham.
Well, I gave them owners and trainers passes for the day, and they spent the day with me. It was good crack. And we raised money for the Jockeys Fund, which was good.
Yeah. I was free that day, Rich. You could have just asked. Of the hurdlers, obviously there are lots of others. Just have a word about Max Dynamite, who we're going to, I mean, he's obviously off to the Melbourne Cup. Am I right? Is it true that Willie Mullins flew to Australia for one day just to see Max Dynamite? Yes,
Willie flew there last Saturday, not Champions Day Saturday, the Saturday before, and flew out. The same thing we did with when we were in Japan. And he went out and landed on Monday morning. They worked the horse, and he worked very well, and did a couple of other bits and pieces, and he flew back late on the Monday night. That's correct.
That is just, I mean, it just shows how professional he is, to be honest.
It's a hard time of the year to be away from the yard. It's very difficult. And particularly with David down there, who's a big part of the yard. That leaves a big gap. So not spending a lot of time there was very good. It was very good of him to go. But no, he's very exciting. I mean, we're very excited by it. It's an honor to have a horse in the Melbourne Cup. It may never happen again. It's very exciting, I have to say. And we're hopeful. We're hopeful. We're not there just for the laughs. We're there to try and win or make a good show of ourselves, and hopefully we can do the job on the day. But he's in great nick, and David and Rachel, the groom out there, are doing a wonderful job. And I'm excited to get there.
Well, I bet they're excited. I mean, Rich, because you are a bit of a character, and you are like TV gold. I mean, I've been to a few Melbourne Cups. I mean, you are going to go down like a sensation. You will be the talk of Australia I promise you, you will be. You might not think it, but you will.
I don't know about that. I stopped reading the papers about 10 years ago, so I wouldn't know if I was a character or a villain or otherwise.
They will never have had anything down under like Rich Ricci. I promise you. You have no idea what's going to hit you.
Well, my great thing about Max Dynamite is, and Ruby always punches me when I say this, he's well handicapped over hurdles.
Well, yeah. The only problem is he doesn't seem to be as good as jumping them as...
No, he'll be all right.
Do you think he's all right? Because once upon a time, you thought he was very good, like potentially as a hurdler, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think, he can't jump as well as he runs in the flat, so maybe that's his career. He can mix it up probably. He's probably, I mean, if he's second the Galway hurdle, there's probably another big run in him, but we'll have to see.
We're going to see him in the Ascot Gold Cup, aren't we, next year?
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. But I think of the other ones, I think we've decided to keep Calkier and Di Cosimo, who were 3 rising 4 last year, and who both look like chasers. We've kept them over hurdles, and I think they'll be good. I think they'll win a lot of money. We were going to take them chasing, but the record of novice chasers who are 5 or so isn't great. So I think we'll just keep them over hurdles. And the other one is Sempre Medici, who there's a big run in him somewhere. He ran brilliantly in a few times last year. He might be one for the fighting 5th. I don't know, but he'll pay his way anyway.
So we know we've got the Arkle winner already with Douvan, but there are 2 horses in your novice chasers that we have been waiting to see for a long time, Moyle Park and Pont Alexandra. What's the latest on both of them?
Moyle Park is fine. He's back and in training. As you know, he got hurt also in a race, and he's very exciting. I like him a lot. He should certainly be up to graded class. Pont Alexander hasn't run for, 2.5 years? Yep. He hasn't run since the Neptune, when he lost to the new one. It remains an exciting prospect. He's big. He's healthy. He was probably close to running last year. If we can keep him healthy, I think he'll make a big mark in that game. But I think the one of the ones that are there, I think the one that probably most excites me other than Douvan is a horse called Orko, okay. Who is a horse that we've always thought a lot about. He got hurt last year. He was off all of last season. He won a hurdle or 2 in France, and I think he could be anything. And he's AURKO. He could be anything. Yeah.
And I tell you, people will need to spell him, because if you put him in the Racing Post search, his name doesn't even come up.
Well, there you go.
This horse does not exist. It's a ghost. Urko, A-U-R-K-O, is one that could be anything. Let's get on to the big guns, Rich. The big chasers. There's really only one place to start, which is the horse who was topping our poll, Vautour. Now, Rich, first of all, how much pressure are you under not to run Vautour against Dunderceau?
None.
In that case, you're heading for the champion chase then?
Nah.
What?
No.
Well, you're making a mess of this.
This is a horse that Ruby Walsh tells me could win over 2 miles, could over 4 miles. We have to go for the Gold Cup. He showed no signs of stopping last year. He in the JLT. He is class. I take everyone's point on grinders and stamina, and it's not as classy a race as the other races. Class can win. And I think that, Coney Gree was great last year. Don Cossack's been brilliant. Don Poli's very good. But I think with Vautour we have to go. And, the good thing about that is Vautour will start in the Amlin Chase at Ascot on the 21st. So anybody who was backing him for the Betfair Chase, don't do that. He's not going to go that route. He would go to the Amlin Chase. And as a second-season novice, he only gets half a penalty for winning his Grade 1. It's a nice place to start. It's a nice pot. It's a great day out at Ascot. It's one of my favorite days at Ascot. We've been very fortunate the last couple of years to win the Ascot Hurdle. Which is on the same day. It's brilliant. He'll start there. He'll then go for the King George. If anything was to go wrong, where we thought that he, couldn't stay or couldn't get the trip, we can always drop him back. But the plan is to go for the Gold Cup, and it's got nothing to do with Dunderceau, who is a marvelous horse, and the O'Connells are very lucky to have him, and they're lovely people. But nothing to do with them. We are going for the Gold Cup because we want to win the Gold Cup.
Oh, Rich.
Sorry, Matt.
I mean, can't I just try and change your mind? The Gold Cup's, a great race, but aren't you going to win that with Jack Adam?
I love Jack Adam. He would probably start out in the Durkin, I imagine, and then the Lexus, and then maybe the Irish Hennessy, which was the Hennessy, I don't know what it is now, and then into something for, then the Gold Cup, or maybe who knows. But it's good to have 2 arrows at the Gold Cup. But no, I think the plan is for Vautour to go for the Gold Cup. He's a quality horse. We think he'll stay the trip. We think he'll get the trip well, and he could be something special.
Ruby's told you he's the Gold Cup horse, but of course Ruby is the rider of Underso. Have you considered asking Paul Townend whether he thinks Vautour's a champion chaser?
That's a good question. I haven't talked to Paul for a while.
Anyone else.
I will. I'll come back to you. I will come back to you. You know me. If I say I'll do something, I'll do it. I'll come back to you. I think that our collective wisdom, and listen, of course, the trainer and the jockey want to keep their horses apart, want to keep their chances solid. They also want to win.
Yeah.
And, we wouldn't be running a horse in a race that wasn't best fit for them if we didn't think that they could win.
With Vautour, I mean, a lot of people are asking about the King George. The King George is a definite target for Vautour at this stage, providing everything goes okay?
Yes, sir.
Definite, right. Okay. And left-handed, right-handed doesn't seem to make any difference to him, does it?
No.
Nope. It's one that punches down, and it doesn't seem to make any difference. And as far as class is concerned, as good as Willie's had as a chaser?
You'd have to ask Willie. He thinks it could be anything. Ruby thinks he's a quality horse, could be a superstar. He's always been in love with the horse. But as far as anything I've owned, he's certainly the best.
And Willie hasn't said to you, well, don't go for the Gold Cup, you won't beat Don Poli?
Nope.
Oh.
We would never have those conversations. That's between he and Jigginstown.
Right. But just out of interest, do you think you might beat Underso over 2 miles?
I think this could be a very special horse. I think he could win, as Ruby says, anywhere from 2 miles to 4 miles.
The problem for Vautour is not only does he have to grind it out against Jacadam, but he might have to beat Vroom Vroom Mag as well, who, I was pointing out to our viewers earlier, was the horse that won you the most prize money of any of your horses in Ireland last season. Not in the UK, because she didn't run at Cheltenham, but in Ireland, she was your biggest earner. And I have to say, I think she is a monstress rather than a monster.
Isn't she just? I mean, I love her. I think she is brilliant. And I think with her, I think what we'd like to do is go for the Hennessy. But having run Jacadam first time out in the Hennessy last year, the lesson we've learned is you need a run. So there's a second season novices chase on the 1st of November at Naas. If we could get her a run there, that would probably put her in perfect shape for the Hennessy. And if Coney Gree runs or Many Clouds runs, she'd have a nice weight. The problem is we've had no rain, either here or in Ireland, and we need that for her to run. So, start doing your naked rain dance outside, and hopefully the gods will throw lightning bolts at you and we'll get some rain, because if we get that and she has a run, I think she could be very competitive off 153 in the Hennessy. If she can't run there, we'll probably start her off in a mare's chase. There's one at Carlisle. There's a couple in Ireland, and she could be. Who knows? She could be a Gold Cup horse. She could be a Ryanair horse. Really, probably more likely. But no, I think she is brilliant. She jumps incredibly well. I mean, she is a very, very good jumper.
Yeah. I mean, she could be absolutely anything, Vroom Vroom Mag, and crikey, you could have 3 in the Gold Cup if everything went to plan. I mean,
well, I doubt that, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Couple of more horses just to ask, Rich, and then we'll let you go. Blood Cotillo. A lot of people, of course, betting anti-post for the Paddy Power chase. Is Blood Cotillo the Rich Ricci, thing that's going to be punted off the boards on the day?
No, I see he's up there in the betting, or 4th or 5th in the betting. No, he won't run there. We're very lucky this season, touch wood, and I'm probably jinxing myself. We haven't had any serious injuries. This is the first time that our string has been pretty much at full complement. That being said, he had a little setback in the summer. He won't be out. He won't run in that race. He'll probably be out around Christmas time or in January, but he won't run in the Paddy Power. So if punters are out there, you shouldn't be backing him. But he remains a horse of great promise. He was brilliant in the big handicap at Cheltenham. He could be a Galway Plate type horse next season. I think he's still well handicapped. He could run a big race. either at Cheltenham or at Aintree. But he won't be running in the Paddy Power, but hopefully he'll be there for the second half of the season.
OK, fingers crossed for him. And it's amazing that we can discuss all these chasers. And the last one I'm coming to is Champagne Fever, who won the Cheltenham Bumper, won the Supreme, is just an absolutely gorgeous horse. Should have won the Arkle. I've said it to you 100 times already. I've bored you, but I bore myself over it. But I still cannot believe it. It's still making me toss and turn at night. Champagne Fever, what's the latest on him? And can he come back to his best?
I hope he can come back to his best. He summered very well, and he was bombing along. I think what we've decided is that, no stowaway horse has won a Grade 1 or even a graded race, I think, at 3 miles. So that plan has now been scuppered. We're going to drop him back to 2 miles, 2.5 miles. We are not sure, and there's a division in the camp as to how he should be ridden. Should he be ridden in the Matt Chapman neck out, gopher held, from the front? Should he be ridden off the pace?
No.
Don't know. But we will continue to debate that. He was doing very well. He's probably a couple of weeks behind the others. He might not be out until, if we get some rain, most of them will be out in mid-November. He might be out in late November, early December. But I think, I can tell you, his trip is going to be 2 to 2.5. And he'd be covering that distance, and we won't step up and trip anymore. And how he is ridden is still to be debated. I don't know. Willie thinks that he could be ridden off the pace. He's only won from the front, although he did win off the pace once, I think, with Paul Town in the plate. So that's the key. But the important thing is to get the horse right and ready and back to himself. But I have to tell you something. He was bombing along in his work. He's had a little niggle, and he's just a couple of weeks behind everybody else. He'll be fine. And hopefully we'll get our Champagne Fever back. He didn't get a run at Cheltenham last year. Hopefully he goes back and does something this year, and we'll see.
Bang him out, aggressive, Rich. Don't try and turning him to a sizing Europe and stretch him out into a Gold Cup or a Grand National.
No, he won't go 3 miles. He's going to go 2, 2.5. That's it.
Yeah, I still hope he comes back right to his... And there are other chasers in there. Is there anything that, I know you probably think you've been on enough, Rich, but is there anything I've missed out that you're thinking, what an idiot, how's he missed that one out?
No, I think Ballycasey would be our Grand National horse. Maybe even Vroom Vroom Mag could run in the National.